Hi there, welcome back to the Novice Coffee Experience. I've taken a long time off being somewhat intimidated by the coffee experience and so just kind of taking some time roasting on my own and not feeling worthy to record any of it. But now I'm back, no more worthy, but I've got a lot more experience. So what I'm doing today is I have roasted an Ethiopian coffee. One thing I have learned, I tend to like Ethiopian coffees at this point. Not sure if that's just happens to be the ones I've tried and liked, or there's a lot of variety in coffees, but certainly tending towards the Ethiopians. This one is Ethiopia Kembata Grade 1 Natural. So the natural means natural process, so it will tend to be sweeter than a lot of other coffees. I think seems to be the more common coffee processing is called washed, where they basically wash all the fruit from the coffee cherry away fairly quickly, which provides a fine, results in a fine coffee, but it eliminates some of the sweetness. So when they do it the natural process, they leave the fruit on, they let it dry, and so it's naturally going to retain some of the sweetness from the coffee cherry. So could be why I like them more, don't know. So I'm doing a tasting of the Kembata. I have roasted three slightly different ways. I probably should have done a little more drastic differences, but this is my first time with this coffee, and I just decided to do it this way. First one is probably my lightest roast. I won't go into the profile, but I roasted for 5.5 minutes. This one over here I did for 7 minutes, so a little bit longer. Color looked nice. I didn't really want to take it too dark, especially being a natural coffee. I think the darker you go, the less you're going to taste the sweetness. You're going to kind of roast those flavors out. The middle one is kind of interesting. Again, I'm a novice, so still learning a lot. So my son told me about something he'd read about an approach to roasting, and then I happened to do some research on this bean, and somebody described almost the exact same process. And my son wasn't reading the same thing, so it was kind of two sources suggesting this process. So I thought I'd try it out, and so these other ones I just kind of turn the machine on. I choose my settings. It starts heating up, and then I just try to monitor, make sure the heat doesn't get too high, which is too high would be hitting over 420 degrees, I guess. This one suggested heating the machine up without the coffee to 400 degrees. Turning it off, so you've got it heated to 400, you turn it off, you put the green beans in and let them sit for a minute, and then you turn the machine on, roast it kind of at a lower temperature, and the person who wrote these notes didn't get specific, so I roasted around 405 degrees, and then he said at the end he cranked it up to, he did say specifically 420 degrees and got it into, I think, first crack. And so I tried to mimic that just for the fun of it, just to see if it made any difference. So I have ground 8 grams. It's kind of doing a cupping. May not be officially exactly the right way to do a cupping, but it's super close, at least close enough for me. So I have already ground up the beans, 8 grams in each cup. You can see right there. And I'm going to do about 150 milliliters of water. I've already got that heated up. So I will go ahead and start pouring that from my little scale, so I know I'm hitting the right amount of water. And then we're going to let that sit for 4 minutes. So getting it to 150 milliliters of water. I don't know if I said that already or if I said grams, but meant milliliters if I did say that. Pretty good on my measurements, because when I put this cup on the same scale, it was at 0 before I started putting water in, so that tells me I was very consistent in my coffee measurements, and the cups weigh exactly the same. And that one wasn't exactly. So I roasted these 2 days ago, so I gave them some time to rest. As I probably mentioned before, I would have thought, let me set the timer. So set the timer for 4 minutes. So I would have thought that roasting, the fresh, you always hear fresh coffee is the best. So, the sooner you can consume it after roasting it, the fresher it's going to be. But there is a resting period, curing period, what the right term for it is, but a time that you just want to let it sit after roasting and let it kind of mature. And I have noticed there's definitely a difference in it. Usually, I think it always tastes better if I let it sit for at least a day. So this is sat for close to 2 days now, at least a day and a half. So that should be plenty for it to mature. But what we will be doing is letting this sit for the 4 minutes. A crust will form of the coffee. So some of the coffee's all in there, from top to bottom. A crust is going to form on the top of some of the coffee grounds, and we're going to carefully break through that crust without stirring the coffee. You're not going to stir it, you just want to break through. I think that will cause the grounds that are on top to sink, or help them sink, and then there will be some foam left over, and we're going to skim out that foam when we're done. One thing I think is interesting, so this is the one that I roasted the longest, a couple minutes more than the others. These two have kind of similar type of foam. This one is much darker for some reason. Well, I roasted it longer, so yeah. So that could have something to do with the gases that are left in the less roasted coffees. In any case, this one, I want to pick it up and disturb it, but this one just looks like a dark with very little foam, and these ones are very light and creamy colored. I guess you can kind of see them there in the video. So they definitely have some foam on top. My little timer is from my French press. So 4 minutes happens to be the right time to let your coffee sit in a French press maker, if you've ever done that. So I conveniently grabbed that since it's 4 minutes as well. Got my spoons here ready to skim off the foam, and then we will taste the coffees. And it's interesting, tasting them is not just kind of a one-time experience. It's that they certainly change their taste profile as they cool down. So the initial tasting after the 4 minutes obviously will be the hottest point, and then I'm going to let them sit a bit and taste them again a few times. And I really find that as it gets down to lukewarm, the point where you wouldn't think you'd want to drink your coffee or you'd want to throw it in the microwave, it's kind of lukewarm. It's kind of where it tastes the best. Has been my experience in the last year. I've always been a very traditional coffee drinker, just drink it like everybody else. And since I've been roasting my own and got this roaster, I've definitely changed probably all of my coffee drinking habits. I don't use cream or sugar anymore because I want to taste the coffee. Like I said, I will drink it from hot to cold, and it's enjoyable every step of the way. There's our 4 minutes. So we will break the crust, as they say. It doesn't look like a crust to me, but just said go back and forth no more than 3 times. Wash the spoon, so in case there's actually a real difference in the way they taste, you're not moving coffee from one cup to the other. Definitely dispersed the foam. Now this one has the most visible grounds on top, so we'll see what happens to those grounds. And yeah, they definitely sank. Now, I don't know why. I didn't research why you need to remove the foam, so they just said to do that. So, and actually, they described the process of using 2 spoons. I'm not sure why I need 2 spoons, but them before you do the next one. There's really not much foam on these ones. I think I'm good on the other two. Interesting. So if you remember, I said these two seemed to have the most foam on top, and this one just seemed like coffee. Then when I broke through the crust, these ones didn't retain the foam on top, and this one did. So must have been hiding below the coffee. So that is the 4 minutes. We broke the crust. We skimmed the foam off the top. So now we'll try tasting it. So this is the 5.5 minute, just straight normal roasting, not the unusual new method I read about and was told about. One part of coffee tasting, if you're around somebody who seems like they're being rude, they may just be experiencing coffee tasting because you're supposed to slurp it. That helps aerate the coffee as it goes into your mouth and you get more flavor. So excuse my slurping. Definitely tastes good. I'm not real experienced on the different flavors that people describe. Like I don't taste any blueberry in there. It's not real sweet like I would have expected it to be. They call that acidity. Some people call that brightness. I like brightness better because apparently the term acidity has nothing to do with acid. It's just the term they applied to it. Maybe because it tastes juicy, and so you tend to think of that as juice is acidy. Yeah. So that's the shortest roast. Here's the longest roast, and I'll try the unusual roast, the one where I preheated the machine, put it in, and let it sit preheated for a minute and all that. We'll do that one last. It definitely tastes like it's roasted more. So again, I don't really have any flavor profile notes that are coming to mind as I slurp it. Definitely tastes more roasty. We'll develop our own terminology. More roasty, less roasty. I like the less roasty one so far. Of course, I should probably have a glass of water to wash my palate, but I do not have that. So here's the one where I preheated the machine and did that different process, which I've never done that before. You know, that is markedly different. This is probably the fruitiest one, as they would say, the brightest, the most acidic. I think that person knew what they were talking about. That is really good. So the one I roasted the most, it's fine, but this is my least favorite. The one I roasted the least and just kind of a straight, just heated it like I normally do, just roasted it straight and made sure it didn't get too hot. Is my next. It's my number 2. So this is my number 3, my number 2 as far as preference. And that is definitely my number 1. Wow. And interesting because I let it sit for a minute in the preheated machine, so I don't really know that's roasting, and maybe drying it a little bit. And then I roasted it for 5.5 minutes at up to 405 degrees because the machine was already preheated, so it heated up pretty quickly. So usually you've got this kind of ramp up in your roasting process, but it was, and I don't have my notes with me, but so that was probably pretty constant, 405, or quickly got there. And then a minute at 420 degrees. So it was actually roasted just a little bit less time than my 7 minute, but probably a lower, that 405 is probably a lower temperature than I did the 7 minute. So interesting. So And that's something, you know, I even read something today that about some other roasting techniques that I haven't used yet, that, you know, I think I need to experiment more. And that's doing things at lower temperatures initially, and then ramping it up later, and so still getting to the same kind of roasted bean look, so still to the same color, but a much slower process in drying the bean out. Because the first phase, you know, if you've never seen it, you're literally dealing with a pale green raw bean. And there's even warning labels on the beans. You know, this is raw coffee, not to be consumed, it needs to be roasted. So it's literally this kind of pale green color. And as it dries out, you see it just kind of change to like this yellow, pale yellow color. And it kind of goes through this color change process before it turns brown like you're used to seeing coffee. So that's the drying out phase. So maybe spending more time in that drying out phase before truly roasting it is helpful in bringing out some other flavors. So that's, I guess, it for now. Feel free to leave any comments, any suggestions, any ideas. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who know more about coffee roasting than me, but if you do, you're probably not watching this. So hopefully you're enjoying the experience with me of being a novice, just learning by doing. Maybe some education on the side, but not trying to copy everything everybody's doing, but just kind of trying it out, learning a few more things, applying that, and just kind of developing as you go. And I mean, I've been doing this for over a year now. Be a year the prior May, Father's Day. Got this gift as a Father's Day present from my son. So crossed over the second Father's Day, and I guess I'm kind of revealing the timing of this. So this is actually just a month or two past Father's Day, so a little over a year. Seems like longer. But I've enjoyed it 100%. The only coffee, non-home roasted coffee I drink now is when I get gifts from people, and usually they're giving me gifts from really good coffee places. Or when I go out. I tend to now favor pour-overs, because you can taste the coffee better in a pour-over. So I do get cappuccinos when I go out, which is my kind of go-to drink, but you're not going to really taste their coffee real well in a cappuccino. So, or like I did the other day, I ordered a cappuccino when I got to the place, and I ordered a pour-over to go, so I could continue my coffee enjoyment and taste some of their, get some real flavor and, you know, taste from their coffee later in the day. So there you go. Hope to see you again next time.